It's at exactly 1:30. So I see we've already got 24 people in the room. Things are hotting up. I know we got an amazing program ahead, and we're going to have an incredible time. So good. I see all the people in there. Kevin, I see you. Mike, Robin. Sure, it's all the guys. So that's really great. All right, so now we're live, and so here we are with the third of our live chats with mentors from the Mentor Hotline, and I'm really excited today to welcome Flo Masoane. And maybe before I get into that, is just really to say we're delighted to announce that our funders, our core funders, FNB, have extended the program now until the end of December. And so as an absolute sweetener, entrepreneurs can get 3 hours a month of free support, free mentoring, or free quick advice. And yeah, so that's something to celebrate. The other thing I want to celebrate for FNB is the really fantastic news. I don't know if you guys realize, but they just won the Global SME Bank. So the SME Bank of the world. They've just walked away with that cup, and so we're delighted in Fetola to be working alongside them because people that believe in SMEs are our people. Cool. So let's just go now to our first. No, I wanted first of all to introduce Flo properly. So Flo is a volunteer on the platform, but she's also a mentor in her day job as well. What's amazing about Flo is that she has a very extensive experience. She starts from a medical training. And did an extensive period working in the medical industry, working sales and marketing for medical companies, and then saw the light and switched into the entrepreneurship track. And in 2012, so has got a really extensive experience as an SME consultant, and also has own business in small-scale farming. Takes guts to do that, Flo. I know that farming is not an easy game, and so she's now transitioned, and in fact is key in implementing innovation in the food production space. So I think I didn't quite get that right, Flo. If you just want to just say a little word about what it is that you do now, just so that people know, and then we'll hit the questions. Over to you, Flo.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it covers it mostly. What I could add really is that our business revolves around small-scale farmers and enabling them to run profitable businesses and sustainable businesses. So we leverage the innovation ecosystem, or at least in agri-food specifically, to create those linkages between small-scale farmers and innovative solutions for their businesses.
Excellent. Great. Okay, cool. So Flo, let's just go to the question. We've got some amazing questions here today. I mean, I really think I said to you before we started, we could do this for 2 hours. I mean, sales and marketing, it seems, there's two things that entrepreneurs really struggle with. One is finance and the other is sales and marketing. And so the depth of questions that we got ahead of us is really incredible. Let's kick off then quickly. So we have a question from the IT sector, somebody who's in software development. And they're saying that they need to reach out to online clients. Where do I find them? How do I attract them? And how do I put in place a payment system? That's quite an in-depth question. Go for it, Flo.
Yes. So the first thing I would want to know, whether for myself or for somebody else who's asking about how they can get in touch with their customers, the first question is, who is that customer? Because that kind of goes quite a bit in answering how you get in touch with them, isn't it? So, and of course, I would hope that entrepreneurs, as they build their business, would have gone into the process of trying to establish who the exact customer persona is for their business, or at least for their solution. In that way, then they would have been able to narrow down their value proposition to meet that customer's demand, but more importantly, they will be able to follow them around wherever they are. So if you have an exact image of who that person is with as much detail as possible. So what is their income bracket? I mean, take me, for example. I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, I'm a 38-year-old Black woman with a child earning within a particular income bracket. That information tells you where I live online. And of course, you are talking about online clients. So, I would assume you would want online means of getting a hold of that client. And I mean, before even one embarks on the many creative ways of trying to gather the crowds around their brand online, it is really helpful to kind of grow a bit of a community before you start splashing out, because then you will have built up for yourself a really nice base of advocates for your products, whether it's people who have shared your products word of mouth, or people who want to vouch for your products or your solution, people who will lead you to where the same of their kind is, since that would be your core customer. You want to kind of get in the spaces where they are, whether it's groups, depending on what kind of business you're in, of course, groups on Facebook, groups on LinkedIn, different online communities where you can get yourself in front of the types of customers you need to be speaking to. Once that question is answered, then where to start will become a lot clearer. So, of course, the process of putting together an e-commerce platform is quite extensive and involved. And I don't know if we have a little bit of time to get into that, Catherine.
I mean, I think e-commerce is a very important track. I think it's something more and more people are realizing in this the kind of future world. Understanding e-commerce is really critical to being able to survive in many businesses going forward. I would just, if you have 1 or 2 points, and maybe you can send guys to where to learn more. Maybe there's just 1 or 2 things you can say about e-commerce generally. I think that would be really useful. Yeah, thanks, Flo.
Okay, well, there are, of course, the common platforms that are most popular to use, and those are the ones that we know: Shopify and WooCommerce. If you're using WordPress to host your website, or at least to build your website, then you are able to plug in the WooCommerce functionality that gives you the ability to have the different products, as well as an option to then buy it, where you can link your payment platform as well to complete purchases. The most common one, at least the one I've used in terms of payment platforms, is PayFast. They have really nice options for small businesses. I noticed the other time, in fact, when I was doing a purchase, there's a new up and coming one. It's called Ozo. That's got nice functionality as well. For people who also don't have credit cards or check cards, because oftentimes we find that's a little bit difficult for people to make payments. But when you use those platforms, all the people need is internet banking with their bank, and they're able to use the EFT function then to make those transactions, as opposed to using a card. So those are the 2 most important things, actually: your shop software, so either the Shopify or the WooCommerce, and your payment gateway. So in this case, PayFast or Ozo, or whatever of that sort. But I must say, Catherine, not LinkedIn, I want to say YouTube. YouTube just about has instructions for every single thing that you need to put together for your e-commerce. I promise you, you don't need anything further than that.
That was going to be my question, Flo. This sounds really complicated. Do I need to get a specialist to help me? And what you're saying is that you can actually do some research on YouTube, follow through YouTube, do as much as you can to understand what you should be doing, and then only if you really struggle, go get somebody, recruit somebody.
Absolutely, yeah. Cool. And I mean, when you think about it, because these tools are specialists, they are built for what you need to do. So they're quite intuitive, easy to use. You just need some instructions to follow along, yeah.
Great, and they want you to succeed, because obviously they make money.
Yeah, that makes them succeed, yeah.
Excellent, lovely, thanks, Flo. I'm so glad you took that question, because I'm not an e-commerce specialist at all. So I really appreciate it. That sounds really useful and really practical advice. So thanks so much for that, Flo. So let's just go on then. We then had a question from Bonolo in Gauteng, who's from the manufacturing sector, and specifically in cleaning detergents. And he's saying, we've developed cleaning detergents and would like to know how to get into wholesalers and retail stores like Nizam's and ShopRite. What can you say to Bonolo, Flo?
Bonola is in a bit of a tough field. It's a tough field, but the opportunities are humongous when it comes to home care, detergent products specifically. Now, the first question to ask yourself, of course, and I've heard you mention it a little bit in some of the previous webinars, Catherine, is the thought of whether or not large retail is a friend or a foe for your specific circumstances. Of course, it looks bright and shiny, you know, all these long aisles with these products everywhere. You imagine your product on those shelves one of these days, but there are very important considerations to have whether or not that's the right place for you to be selling your product, particularly when we refer to more generic type of products. I mean, when you think about it, the more small scale detergents manufacturers manufacture more generic type detergent products that we use in our everyday lives, like your normal, dishwasher, or your tile cleaner, or a range of relatively generic products. And when you think about it, these large supermarkets where you want to sell your product also have their own generic products that they sell. So that obviously just tells you that competition is extremely stiff. You are really a drop in the humongous ocean among very many really amazing products with global footprints and the retailer's own kind of stock. Also, when you think about it, are you properly set up to be able to service a client like that? Because, I mean, particularly in our environments and the type of retailers that you mentioned, they have national footprints, really large stores. Do you have the manufacturing capacity to meet the demand for that type of retail environment? And that is, in fact, a critical consideration to make, because that if you aren't able to meet orders or expectations from large clients, that essentially could mean the end of your business, because the investment is so significant, and really margin for error is just about non-existent. And margin period, the profit margins on because you're selling at that level are extremely thin as well. Is your business able to absorb those kinds of really thin margins?
Yeah, thanks for that, Flo. I mean, I think the thing with anything that's a commodity, when really they're sold in large volumes, the price pressure is just so intense, and it's very difficult for a small supplier to compete with large guys. And yeah, moving into the big time often means squeezing those margins even further. So if you are really determined to move into the big time, maybe look at getting a process re-engineer in to reduce your cost of production so that you can meet the type of prices that the big guys are looking for and still retain decent margins. So I also think that, I think you mentioned it previously, Flo, in conversation, that the possibility of moving into a niche and maybe doing some social selling. So, working with groups and trying to customize product for local communities and trying to sell like that.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, this is such a crucial time for that type of distribution strategy, Catherine, because we are in a time where more and more people could really use an avenue to generate additional income for themselves and their families. So, and of course, you have a spectrum even in social selling, isn't it? You have on the one end, that normal recommendations from friends and family, and you have on the other hand these global, sophisticated, multi-level network marketing type things, and hundreds of different models in between. So of course you would just need to find one that suits you. But really what you would be doing is giving the normal everyday person on the street the ability to create an income for themselves by distributing your product on a micro level. So, and you could work with individuals, you could work with groups, stokvels, societies, burial societies, there's different groups of people that you could service, and people within those groups whose individual needs you could service as well. And of course, creating an opportunity for them to earn as they distribute your business and grow your brand. So yeah, there's quite a few avenues to explore outside of the whole large retail, large wholesaler type of situation. I mean, I can tell you an example of a gentleman I recently met. He's a professor at the TUT, and they've developed a product, really innovative type of sorghum drink yogurt type of product. They could obviously theoretically go and lobby for space on shelves, but they actually found themselves a small little a kiosk in town, and they have a few guys who come in and collect some of the product and go to the different traffic lights to go and sell the product, and they come back and forth to collect more as they sell. It works extremely well for them. They've been able to essentially prove their concept just by selling within the space where they are.
Nice. I like that flow. I mean, and I also think that sometimes when we're growing a business, we try to think too big, too fast. And so I like your idea of working close to you, working within your reach, and proving your concept before you grow. And I also think that also to remember that if you're going through network marketing, or if you're using social selling, you're not having to employ people. And and that's really important because as you know, as you all guys all know, the labor law in South Africa is so tricky. You know, if you employ somebody and it doesn't work out, it costs you an arm and a leg to terminate that relationship. So yeah, I think working social selling sounds like a really good thing to explore. And yeah, maybe if you want to know more about that. So again, if you wanted to know more in detail and you wanted to know, get some practical how-to steps, I would post your question onto the Mentor Hotline, and you will then be matched with somebody, one of the 180 volunteers that are there, that could actually come back and give you the answers that were specific to your own needs. So if you have further questions on that, please jump onto the platform. It's free, and certainly free until the end of December. Make use of it and get the specific advice that you want for your business. Super nice advice, Flo. Yeah, loving this. Excellent. Awesome. So cool. So we have another question from Alfonso Slinger. So Alfonso is from Western Cape, runs a social enterprise, and is inquiring about a subscription mentorship service. And Alfonso is saying, I want my website to convert my customers when they land, so that when they land, they can sign up and choose their plans, presumably of what they're going to buy, a fully integrated system. Have you got any advice for Alfonso, Flo?
Yeah, Alfonso, fully integrated systems are awesome. I mean, introducing the concept of automation into your processes is always good. But one would have to begin, in fact, by looking at the customer acquisition process as more of a journey than an incident. So as opposed to a person landing on your website and making a purchase immediately, you want to create kind of incremental engagements with the potential customer. So of course, one would believe that there would be some kind of trigger for a person to come on your website. So if you, for example, have a specific campaign around a particular issue of interest, you could, there's different options to attract people. You could tell a story of perhaps a previous beneficiary, or tell a story of one of the organizations that you support, or help people solve the specific issue of interest, whether it's preventing drug abuse, or helping women with post-abuse integration, or whatever that. So give people a piece of information that help them engage with your platform, such that you're able to have that initial interaction with them. And it needs to be small enough such that they're not having to think about it. Because I mean, for a person to spend 500 rands, 1,000 rands, 5,000 rands, they need to have thought, this is an important amount of money, such that they'll need to have paid some thought to it. So you want the barrier to be small enough such that you're able to capture them without seeking that extensive commitment that might be difficult before you gain the trust of the customer. So the first thing that you want to do is get the email address. That is the absolute first thing you must have when you want to build a continuous communication with the customer online, of course, because I mean, we are talking here about landing pages. Once you have their email address, then you build on the conversation with them. So if, for example, you gave them a little booklet that tells them how to spot drug abuse in their children, then maybe you might email them a type of resolution series. What do you do, when your child presents like this, or what do you do when this happens to school, et cetera, et cetera. But really present yourself as a person of value in that specific area for those people whom you want to capture. The rest of it is really, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Flo. I think that's really useful advice. I mean, I think that we can sometimes be confused about the use of the internet, and it's important, particularly if you're a social enterprise, to make sure that you're also retaining a relationship. You're building a relationship. It's not just, I would imagine, as a social enterprise, it's not a transactional thing. You're not just getting, people are not just coming on board and buying. You're actually trying to create a relationship with them. So it is really important in your communications and in the way that you set yourselves up, that there is this sense that you're building a relationship with your client. And then make it very, very clear what is the value proposition. I think, Flo, you've mentioned this, but I'm just going to emphasize because it is so important. So a very clear value proposition, and then make it easy for people to opt in. But if you're struggling, so first of all, it is very difficult to get people to buy membership. It's a very difficult way. It's a difficult model to build self-sustainability into your social enterprise. Membership is a notoriously difficult process to get right. But it is really important that there's very clear value. So if you're struggling with this, I would say make sure that there's a two-way communication with the people that are coming on board. Find out where the points of resistance are. Is your user journey just too complex? Is your languaging not spot on? Or do they just simply not think that it's good value? So make sure that you're picking up the phone where you can, and you're really getting two-way engagement with the people that you have a relationship with already. And good luck. I would look forward. Keep us informed as to how you go. Cool. Anything else on that, Flo? Or should we move on?
We can move on. What I wanted to add, in fact, was that one of the things that I always talk to entrepreneurs about is their websites, how the website is set up. Because a lot of the time, what we have is really more a brochure, like an online brochure, than an actual sales and marketing tool, which websites really should be. So when you think about it, just like how acquiring customers is a type of a journey, a visit to your website should also follow the same principle. So you begin with the potential customer or potential subscriber from somewhere, and then you narrow them down to where you want them to be by offering them value all along the way. So yeah, I mean, thinking of it as a complete customer relationship as opposed to a buyer might be helpful. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Flo. Thanks for that. Okay, so just maybe before I go on to this next question, guys, if you have questions, please pop them in the thread. We will answer them. So if you have anything, we've got another 15 minutes, 20 minutes on the call. And so please, if you have any questions,
so quick.
Flo's the girl. I said I wouldn't throw her under the bus, but maybe the questions you bring in will keep us both with a mouthful of teeth, and that could be also quite fun. So if any question that you have, let's see if we can handle it. Sales and marketing is what we're talking about, and yeah, so go for it, guys. I want to see your questions. But meanwhile, let's move on to a question from Pressure Machea from Gauteng. She's in hospitality and tourism. And so this is a difficult one. Flo, I decided to tackle this because it is such a widespread concern. I was speaking to somebody last night. I had a function in town, and there was somebody from the restaurant industry. And so obviously restaurants, travel agents, travel is the sector that's really deeply affected. And so it'd be nice to try and help Preska. She's saying here, the business is heavily affected by travel bans and lockdown. How do I prepare for sales post-COVID? And how can I target companies that need travel services for essential workers? So what advice can we give for a travel agent in this really tricky time?
Yeah, of course, I'm assuming that the business is experienced in the field, like they've operated in the sector before.
Sounds like it,
so,
yes.
Yeah. So the one thing that they have that many people who maybe perhaps new entrants don't have is is that engaged customer. So you've had customers before, you've served them well, you've developed relationships and trust with some of them, but really more importantly, you have this need. You have this need that was previously there, but has now modified because of the new circumstances. So because you have now this relationship with your potential customer, it is a good time before you set off on new and trailblazing sales processes to just go back and revisit if you are still on the same page in terms of that customer's jobs and their gains and their pains. You know, a lot of, in the hospitality sector especially, a lot of their processes have had to change to accommodate the new way we're living. So their pains and their gains could also have evolved to accommodate what they now are obliged to do. So really just uncovering where the inflection points are with the customers that you already have will help you position your value proposition to solve those specific problems. I mean, if you think about what a value proposition is, it isn't, I have this really nice, shiny product, so you need to buy it, but rather, what is your gain? How can I enhance your gain? Or what is your pain? How can I alleviate your pain? So if you position yourself to really understand in depth what's the new normal, I like the way they use that word, what the new normal for your regular customer is, so that you can now give the value proposition that meets that. Yeah. So I mean, that's
thanks, Flo.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Flo. I want to add to that. I mean, I think that one of the things that really has come out of COVID is the importance of relationships.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned established relationships with established clients. And my sense is that at this time, you should be having relationship calls, not sales calls.
Yeah.
So now's the time. In fact, hopefully you've been doing it all the way through lockdown, but if not, you need to start picking up the phone. You need to be chatting with your past clients. How are things going? How do you see the market? You know, what are things happening for you? And really just building a relationship and building a picture of where they are and where they're going. It's not a sales call. It's really important to build the relationship, keep the relationship, because now more than ever, people are doing business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so don't sit back terrified thinking everything's terrible and I'm going to suddenly pump out this sales campaign. Rather get on the phone, pick up the phone and just have friendly conversations, make friends, reconnect with the clients that you've got. And in reconnecting, you're going to listen to what their pain points are, and you're going to be able to adjust your offering accordingly. But it's really important not just to go to a panic kind of push sales strategy. And particularly in an area like travel, when everybody's trying to pivot, everybody's trying to find a new area of need, you can't guess on that. You need to be really having these two-way conversations with your client base, and maybe even asking them for advice. You know, if they're a long-term client, to just say to them, look, I'm really struggling, you know, are there any other areas that we could work in, or have you got any other thoughts about it? But it's really about relationships and about trust. So yes, maybe build on that. So lovely, cool. Thanks very much.
If I can just add something as well, Catherine, it might be helpful to actually pick a customer that you want to focus on, because I mean, they mention corporate customers who need corporate travel for essential services, but that is so broad. It makes it extremely difficult when you're an SME on a shoestring budget to satisfy the needs of such a broad, selection of customers. So if you just find one particular area of need that you could tackle, I mean, you have essential travel all the way from Doctors Without Borders to, pickers and packers that work at farms. It is so broad. So this travel for essential services could also just be niched within a particular area.
Great, thank you. I'm having to turn my my sound on and off because I forgot to mute all the notifications. So if you're getting pings and buzzes, it's me. I put my hand up. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so we have another one from construction and logistics. Now, construction and logistics is really interesting because obviously during lockdown, it was like on a zero. And there is this sense that a lot of people in construction are kind of linked to government, and there's a lot of anxiety there because obviously government doesn't have the money that it thought it was going to have. But I do think that there is going to be a boom in construction. I mean, the government has said that they're going to put a lot of money into infrastructure, and I think that is probably one of the only ways that they're going to really be able to stimulate the economy. So I think construction and logistics are probably really good sectors to be in at the moment. So we have a question from Pendile Tanya from Gauteng, and it's since lockdown, most of our clients have lost business, and it's not been easy to get new clients during the pandemic. What do you say to Pendile? What advice can we give to Pendile, Flo?
I just want to speak a little bit to the perspective of the question, which I would hope could at least I would say could use a bit of a tweak. Because when you think about it, we aren't wired as the type of people to act against our beliefs or our conditioning or what we know to be true. So if what we know to be true is that, it's difficult to get customers and, there are no opportunities, etc., guess how we are going to act? Because we act according to what we already believe. So it might help to influence that perspective, to look at your business from more of an ecosystem view, as opposed to a transactional view. I'm the business, this is the customer, we exchange value, and that's the end of the story. There's a whole lot that happens behind you as the service provider, behind the customer as the person who needs the services. There's just so much that happens. And in logistics in particular, of course, beyond the new opportunities that are going to be available because of the new normal, there is already businesses that are doing incredibly well, even in the depression, So looking at what you do from an ecosystem perspective will help you find all the gaps that may not have been obvious when you were busy trying to push your business. Now there's a bit of a lull, that's fine. Take that opportunity to just see what the value chains look like from start to end. Where are people experiencing the most friction? Where are people spending the most money? Is it in fuel? Is it in green energy? Is it in, I don't know what people do. Is it in warehousing, for example? I'm not an expert in the construction and logistics business, you must forgive me. But all businesses have an ecosystem. And within ecosystems, there are gaps that, particularly people who already have an intimate knowledge of how the ecosystem operates, isn't it? If you have some vans and you run a transport operation, you know how things work.
Nice. Thanks, Flo. I mean, I think I want to pick up on that. I think that so when you talk about ecosystem, it's also about collaborating. So maybe this is the time where, as a very small supplier, you're too small to your market. If you look to others in the ecosystem, you could collaborate, and then maybe you skip up a level and move into a different market. So I think collaboration is important. And I want to say the same thing as I said to the previous question: be in touch with your clients. Have conversations. Don't sit back afraid and think you're going to try and solve things from your own living room or from your own office. Get out there, talk to people. When we talk about get information about the market, there's not like this magic market from guru. It's you picking up the phone, or you having conversations with other people in order to hear where their people are and where things are shifting, so that you can build a strategy to get in there. Nice. Thanks, Flo. We have a question coming in from Yasmin Crypto. So Yasmin is saying, in the informal sector, such as flea markets, people are more than ever looking for bargains due to the tight economic situation. How do I sell my product at my price, considering that my markup is already low in order to be competitive? Great question. Thanks, Yasmin. Yeah, Flo, what have you got to say there?
Well, the first unfortunate position is that they've kind of, I don't know if I should even say priced themselves tight, or at least they've gone to market with the price strategy. And that is always such a difficult position to find yourself in. And I mean, you know, when you are already in there, it's kind of like a little bit difficult to dig yourself out, because, you know, you will lose some customers if you put your price up. And if you're saying there's already a price crunch, so there's just no room to put your price up like that. So the thing to do in any, with regards to pricing generally, is to really focus more on value as opposed to the absolute number. Even if you do turn out to be more expensive, I put that in quotes, than what is available on the market generally, you could have the conversation of, but why am I better than what is on the market currently? And you could also buff your product to, so to explain it a little bit, you add a little bit to your product, like maybe a pinch of salt, but you improve the taste of your product by tenfold. So kind of find some areas where you can make small improvements in your product that will demonstrate much more value in the eyes of your customer, so that the conversation can move away from the price. And it helps to do that. It helps to understand the customer journey, because the customer journey goes beyond, okay, I've bought this thing from this person. It goes to, okay, how do I use it? What do I need together with it to get the most utility? You know, what are the things that happen around my usage of that product that I could improve my product with that view? Nice. To help people see more value. Yeah.
Nice, thanks, Flo. I mean, I think really useful comment. You know, as a small business, never go to market on price, because you'll always be beaten to nothing. It's really a low price, kind of being the lowest in the market is not a great strategy. So definitely building more value. And I might even suggest, so there's two ways to do it, is reduce your cost of production. So you can build in better margins by improving the way that you make things, maybe downscaling some of your packaging requirements, or actually reducing your inputs. So there you could retain the same price but have a bigger margin. Or as Flo, you've said, add extra value. So go into a niche, and instead of just being salt, you know, you're like West Coast salt with herbs tossed in. Yeah. So that's one thing you can kind of go up in quality. But the other thing is to think about linked selling. And there's a correct term for it, escaped my mind. But I mean, just think about bundling yourself.
Bundling, that's the word, yeah.
So for example, on the salt thing, so let's just say you're selling salt. What do people buy with salt? So they buy pepper. And so then you're going to put them together with pepper, or they're going to buy a little bowl for the salts. And so then you find somebody else in the flea market that sells bowls. And then you bundle them together and you make a special deal. So maybe look around, you talk about the customer journey, you know your customers in the market. Where do they go? They go from that stall to you, or they go from you to that, and just consider making a little bit of a collaboration and bundling your products together so that you're a little bit different than just the plain competitive with other people selling exactly the same. I hope that helps. Cool. Yeah. Alrighty, so I just want to move on then. Guys, you've only got 5 more minutes, eh? So if you've got a question, now's the time to hit it, because we're going to be done in 5 minutes time and then your time is over. So don't be shy. Please put your questions in. If you don't want me to mention your name because you're not sure it's a good question, you can just say anonymous. But otherwise, come jump in. You want to make Flo work. She's such a mine of information. Let's make her work. Come on, guys, give us some questions. So Flo, I'm going to take one from the list again. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go, actually, I would like to have a digital marketing plan. So this is somebody from the food and agro processing. So this is your area, I think, although it's in pre-made meals. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, Flo, so the pre-made meals, food and agro processing sector, I need a digital marketing plan. I don't know where to start or who can assist me with this. Can you give some pointers to this entrepreneur?
Yeah, awesome. Of course, the first assumption I'm making is that they've gone through the journey of product development and they know they have an appealing product that they can sell to customers. But the best advice actually that I would want to give to anybody who's looking for this type of info, digital strategy, social media marketing strategies, or those types of online type digital skills, is to just go out and find the courses, guys. The courses are free. At least mostly, and a lot of these really reputable organizations in digital marketing offer these courses for free. If you go and search for MOOC it's MOOC, massive online course. Yeah, but yeah, we know what I'm talking about. We're talking about free online courses. If you Google MOOC, you will find a whole platform, a website that will tell you the different courses that are available for free, and you'll just search, of course, based on your field and select from the list. They have incredibly useful courses that'll take you from A to Z. And the helpful thing is then you can use your own business as practice through what they teach on those types of platforms. But I mean, really more importantly, which is why you would need to, even when you take a course, kind of like do the practice, is you learn by doing. They talk about maybe like landing page strategies. You go and create a landing page and you see how it works. You do your A/B testing. You communicate with your customers, ask them, okay, what worked, what didn't you like, what do you wish that could be there, etc., etc. But really, as long as you have the core basic skills of digital marketing, the rest of it, you kind of have to jump in there and do. That's how you're going to learn. Yeah.
Just do it. I think that's the beauty. So, I mean, what I love about the COVID period is that it's not the time for talking, it's the time for doing. And the only mistake you can make is not by not doing anything. So I love that. Yeah. And that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is that you can try it, you can improve as you go. So nice advice there. Thanks, Flo. So we just had a very few minutes left. So I'm going to squeeze in one question. It's also about information on sales. It's from Peliswa Mpulwana from Eastern Cape. And she's in wholesale and retail, including online, and is in vintage clothing sales, which I thought is a really interesting sector to be in, very much a niche sector. And she's asking, she says, my company has a website with recommendations and reviews from customers, but how do I convert them into potential buyers? So, I mean, this is quite interesting because it's not off the rack. Presumably everything is unique. Everything has a different price. So I would imagine it's quite a challenge, Flo. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of entrepreneurs doing really awesome stuff in the vintage clothing space that I thought works. But really, the key thing to do here is to build a reputation, isn't it? That build that trust with the community, with the vintage clothing or vintage goods community, because it's not just clothing, so that you can be known as the person to go and look at first when you are looking to buy something in that area. Because like you say, Catherine, this is not something that you will see somewhere and hope that you will find again at the shop. This is knowing that you are a person to be trusted when it comes to vintage goods. And once you've developed that trust with the customer, it's so much easier to ground your business for growth, isn't it? Because if they like the vintage look, then it's not just in their clothes where they'll like vintage. It might be in their bags. It might be in their house furnishings. It might even be in their car. It's like a whole area of preference where you could position yourself as a go-to person. Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
No, I like it. I like that idea, thinking bigger than just clothes. I think that's a great idea, Flo. I did just have a query, though. I mean, because the police was specifically saying, how can I convert interest into sales? And I would imagine that is quite tricky, because a lot of the value, if I Takealot, I think my daughter is Takealot's biggest single customer. And I know with her, and one of the reasons she likes Takealot is that she doesn't like it, she can send it back and it's instantly refunded. And And I think that's really a way to build trust with your clients. They know that if they're going to spend the money and they don't like it, they can get the money back. But I would imagine in the vintage clothing, that's even more tricky because you really don't know. It's not a standard size. It's not a standard product. And I would imagine as the seller, you're concerned maybe that somebody's going to buy your clothes, maybe wear it for a couple of days for a party and then kind of send it back for a refund. So I would imagine it is quite a difficult industry to sell successfully in. But I would agree with you, Flo, that it's all about trust. It's building relationships. It sounds, Felisa, as though you're doing well. You've got good feedback from your client base. And I would think that that's the starting point. So I might actually give my standard advice here and say, pick up the phone to the people that you know and actually ask them. Ask them, what is it that I'm missing? How would you love, you express interest in the, you express interest in the clothing. How do I convert? So I would actually speak to your trusted group already and get a two-way conversation going about that.
And conversion is about building that trust, isn't it? I mean, that journey that we spoke about earlier, they might just be an observer for the first few engagements when you are speaking with them, or they might leave a review or two on your website. But as soon as they gain trust, then that purchase happens. Yes. So,
excellent. So there's a lot of thread. Thanks, Flo. That's really all we have time for. There's some really nice advice coming up in the chat. There's obviously some vintage clothing gurus out there. So look at the chat if you want further advice. It's really useful. I want to say thank you, Flo. It's been fantastic chatting with you. I really have enjoyed it. You're a mine of information in sales and marketing. I know who I'm going to be calling when I need advice next time. So just the last thing to thank you so much all for joining us. Remember, if you have questions, if there's questions we haven't answered, please go on to Mentor Hotline. You'll find it on the Fetola website. So that's fetola.coza. Look for Mentor Hotline and just really click on there. It's much easier. It's easier than registering for SARS, and it's a lot nicer end result. So please just get in there. There's 180 volunteers, advisors, and mentors just waiting to help you. And they will give you the advice that you want and need. And that is free up until the end of December. Thank you to the support of FNB. And I must say also an acknowledgement to our collaboration partners, Syca, that have provided a lot of the specialist finance advisors as well. So thanks very much. It's been really great. Sorry if we didn't get to all of your questions. And enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks, Flo.
Thank you. It was so good to be here.
Excellent. Good. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining. And stay close and jump into Mentor Hotline. It's there to help you.
Thank you.